quo. Can all the field fires flow? Words that Mr. Henry speaks are words that you can trust. You might find yourself in a lion's den, on a mountaintop, or then again, when Jericho's walls come tumbling down. Can all those things be done? Mr. Henry, Mr. Henry, he's making Bible stories come to life. He's kind of wacky, kind of crazy, kind of loony, kind of zany. Henry's making stories, they're not just any stories. Oh, he's making Bible stories come to Henry, Mr. Henry. He's making Bible stories come to life. He's kind of wacky, kind of crazy, kind of loony, kind of zany. Ron Wacky, totally true. Seems there's nothing he won't do. Henry's making stories, they're not just any stories. Oh, he's making Bible stories come to life. He's making all right.
Have you and your family ever packed up everything and moved? I mean, everything. Like your clothes, your bedroom furniture, the dogs, the cats, the goldfish, the hamster, the whole kit and caboodle, everything but the kitchen sink? Well, you're not alone. A lot of people move. Some people move across town. Others move to another part of the country or even to a different country. Now, once there was a man named Abraham. That's me! Who lived way back in Old Testament times. We're talking about 4,000 years ago. And he moved too. He packed everything. All right, everybody. We pack up everything. We're gonna move. Yeah, bring it around. Fold that up, yes. The tent too, and that tent. We all go, all of us go. His wife, his servants, his sheep, cattle, donkeys, camels. If he had a kitchen sink, he would have packed that too, because he packed his whole house. Well, it was a big tent. So you just fold it up, you pack it on the camel, and away you go. But he packed up everything and hit the road, heading out for.
Hey, Abraham, where are we going? Someone bring me a map. I want a map.
We are going, but we're going to go to. Maybe there's a problem here. Well, what if your family decided to move and you asked them?
Hey, where are we going?
You'd expect them to say something like, "Well, son, the company is moving me to Iowa," or "We're heading to Texas, so pack beer," or "Get your safari gear. We're on our way to Zimbabwe, Africa." No matter where you're going, you'd expect your parents to at least know where, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you'd think Abraham would know where he was going to, right? Wrong.
He's supposed to know where we're going. I told him.
All right. You're hurting my ears. The Bible tells us in Genesis 12:1 that God said to Abraham, "Leave your country, your relatives, and your father's family. Go to the land." Yes, sir. Go to the land. Lord, where are we going? Go to the land I will show you. What am I going to tell Sarah? Sarah was Abraham's wife, and guys, you may as well know right now that wives need to know details.
What? You don't know where we're going? Well, what am I supposed to wear?
When I
was going to plan the food, I've got to plan the clothes, I've got to feed the camels and the sheep. How much food should I bring? What if they don't have decent bathrooms?
Yeah, God says he'll show us where to go.
Oh, he'll show us. So we just wander around until God tells us where to stop? Such a plan. I'm awestruck.
Sarah, where is your sense of adventure?
Where are your brains? Has God shown you those lately?
Sarah, I trust God. He will show us where we will go. And so, Abraham and Sarah packed up and left their hometown of Ur, and they traveled. A long journey through mountains and across deserts, over rivers and through canyons, through the heat of the day and the darkness of night, over the river and through the woods. And some took the high road and some took the low road. And when they walked through a storm, they held their heads up high, and they weren't afraid of the dark. You could hear the whistle blow 500 miles, until at last they came to the land of Canaan. And guess what? The Lord appeared to Abraham and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." You see, Sarah? Now what did I tell you? Look up at the sky, Abraham. There are so many stars you cannot count them. And just like the stars, your descendants will be too many to count. My descendants, too many to count. Children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and great great grandchildren and great 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 grandchildren. And great 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 grandchildren. Abraham, because you have obeyed me, because you have trusted me, I will bless you, and I will give this land to you and to your descendants. Do you hear that, Sarah?
Our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren like the stars of the sky. Abraham, am I missing something here? Where are we going to get kids like the stars of the sky? We don't even have kids number one. And have you looked at yourself lately? You're an old man, and me, I'm no spring chicken.
Oh, you're right. You should know that Abraham was almost 100 years old by now, and Sarah was going on 90. Let's face it, really old people don't have little babies. Can you imagine your great grandmother having a baby in her old age? But once again, Abraham believed God. If God says it, then I believe it. And you know what? Everything that God told Abraham came true. Abraham had a son named Isaac.
I like being Abraham's kid. Don't know if Ishmael ever did. God made a promise.
And then Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau.
We're Jacob and Esau, yo ho, yo ho. And Isaac's our papa, yo ho.
And Jacob had 12 sons.
Like you are Harvard, like you are Harvard, like you are Harvard.
And those 12 sons had kids and grandkids and turned out to be a great nation of people. And it goes on and on from there to this very day. And it all happened because Abraham believed God and obeyed him. Now, over here, thank you. Over here in the New Testament, it's Hebrews 11:8 to be exact. Yeah, here it is. The Bible tells us that it was by faith that Abraham obeyed God's call to go to another country God promised to give him. He left his own country not knowing where he was to go. You know, sometimes it feels as if we don't know where we're going either. Sometimes when we move away from our friends and family, it can be a little scary. Sometimes just moving into a new classroom can make us nervous. But one thing we can know for sure, God knows where we're going. He has a plan for our lives, and you can be sure of one thing, He isn't lost. He's right. It's great to laugh. The Bible even says that laughter is good medicine. I like that. Instead of having to get a shot or take some yucky tasting medicine, wouldn't you just love to hear your doctor say, I want you to hang around some really funny people and laugh at least 3 times a day. Tell a couple of knock knock jokes. You know, sometimes people say things to us that they want us to take seriously, but we think they're joking. And we laugh while they just stand there looking at us as if we're from another planet.
That isn't funny.
Well, remember Sarah, Abraham's wife? Something like that happened to her. One day, she overheard someone talking to Abraham, and what she heard just made her chuckle. It was like this huge knock knock joke. Knock knock. Who's there? The Lord. The Lord who? The Lord who says you're going to have a son.
Oh boy, has he come to the
wrong house. It was all Sarah could do to keep from laughing out loud. She put her hand over her mouth. She closed her eyes. She turned away. But the Lord knew she was laughing on the inside and asked her, "What's so funny?" Nothing. But you were laughing. Me? Laugh? Who's laughing? I didn't laugh. Well, she thought it was funny. A little old lady, 90 years old, having a baby? Now that's a good one. Abraham thought it was funny too. In Genesis 17, the Lord appeared to Abraham and told him, "I will bless Sarah. I will give her a son, and you will be the father. She will be the mother of many nations. Kings of nations will come from her." I'm 100 years old, and I'm going to have a kid. And Sarah, Sarah's going to have a baby when she's 90. There's something wrong with this picture. Abraham laughed so hard he fell on his face. But the Lord just told him, "When Sarah has your son, name him Isaac." Isaac. The name Isaac means he laughs, which just goes to show that God has a sense of humor too. Anyway, the following year, when Abraham was 100 and Sarah was 90, little Isaac was born, and now Abraham and Sarah were really laughing with joy. He is my new son, and he makes me laugh. So Abraham really loved his son Isaac, and Isaac loved his dad. They'd go fishing together. Be careful now, you throw the line. They'd go out and throw the ball around. Okay, I throw the ball. You catch it. Yeah, throw it. Oh, you're good. You're good. And have all kinds of father-son talks. Isaac always remember, the Lord God brought us to this land. And all kinds of laughs. And so the goat herd said, "That's funny. I thought it was a tree." The goat herd, they thought it was a tree. You don't get it. And then came a very difficult day for Abraham. The day God tested Abraham to see how much Abraham loved God and whether or not Abraham would obey him. "Abraham, here I am. Take now your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to a mountain I will show you, and there sacrifice your son, Isaac, upon an altar as a burnt offering." "Lord, sacrifice my only son? Sacrifice him as if he were an animal? Lord, I do not understand, but I will obey." Can you imagine how you would feel or what you would do if God told you to sacrifice someone you loved? What do you suppose Abraham was thinking? Well, we know that he trusted God no matter what. And he knew, well, I'll tell you that part later. But Abraham packed a couple of donkeys. He brought along some servants and journeyed to the mountain with Isaac. When he saw the place where he was to sacrifice his son, he told his servants, "You stay here with the donkey. My son and I will go up on the mountain and worship the Lord. And then we will come back to you." So they began to climb the mountain together. Abraham brought some fire in a kettle, and Isaac carried the firewood on his back. But Isaac, who was a teenager by this time, knew that something was missing. "Father, we have the wood and the fire, but where's the animal we're going to sacrifice?" "Don't worry, my son. God will provide the animal." And so they pressed on, up to the top of the mountain, and there they worked together and built an altar of stones. And then, in obedience to God, Abraham tied Isaac's hands and feet and laid him on the altar. "Father, is there nothing you would refuse God. There is nothing, my son. Then, in one ultimate act of trust and obedience, Abraham took a knife and lifted it high, ready to slay his son. If God says I must sacrifice my son, my only son, I will obey. Abraham, here I am, Lord. Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And at that moment, Abraham looked and saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. Oh, oh, my Lord, my Lord, I knew it. I knew you would provide a way. Isaac, you see, God has provided another sacrifice. My son, my son, God has given you back to me. And Abraham took the ram and sacrificed it to the Lord on the mountain in the place of his son. Remember, I was about to tell you something Abraham knew. Something he knew even as he and Isaac journeyed up the mountain, even as he laid his son on the altar. Abraham knew that somehow, some way, God would let Isaac live. Even if God had to raise Isaac from the dead, Isaac would live. Abraham knew it. And on that day, he saw it happen. God found another sacrifice so Isaac wouldn't have to die. Does that sound familiar? Almost 2,000 years later, maybe even on that same mountain, God sent another sacrifice to die in our place, his son, his only son, so that we could live forever. You see, God had a plan for Isaac, and all the same promises that God gave to Abraham, that his offspring would be as numerous as the stars. And God has a plan for you too, and he won't let you down, not ever. And that's cause for joyful laughter, don't you think? So once there was this goat herd, and there was a shepherd. Dad, you already told me that joke. I like that story. Well, okay, go ahead, tell it again. I'll listen.
Mr. Henry, Mr. Henry, he's making Bible stories fun to learn. He's kinda wacky, kinda crazy, kinda loony, kinda zany, fun, wacky, totally true. Seems there's nothing he won't do. Henry's making stories, and that's his strange stories. He's making Bible stories come to life. Mr. Henry's alright! At this time, please turn the cassette over to continue with more from Mr. Henry.